Okay.
David does this thing like you want to meet with him. There's a link to his Vero. You just go.
Oh, wait, is that? Yeah, but that's just true that you.
Uh-oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Vision Fund public hearings. We've had public hearings during 2 sessions on Tuesday. We had a session earlier today, and this will be our last session. When we did our applications and public hearings on Tuesday, the requests were for somewhere in the neighborhood of $9 million. And the requests coming in today are somewhere in the neighborhood of $19 million. So give us your best shot tonight. I'll introduce everybody that will be asking you questions and listening to you up here, if you would please, from the left.
Pauline Sumption, Finance Officer for the city.
Katie Kinnan, Vision Fund Committee Member.
Bob Demersman, Committee Member.
Megan Reeder-Schott, Vision Fund Committee Member.
Mark Massa, Committee Member.
George Graspy, the Chairman of the committee.
Heather Forney, Committee Member.
Tim Johnson, Vision Fund Committee Member.
Jolynn Littlewood.
Don Connor, Committee Member.
Lindsay Seacrest, City Staff and Liaison to the Citizens Committee.
And the Rapid City Attorney was here for earlier meetings. I know he may come in, but just so you know if he does. In any event, we will begin. Just so you know, these lights up here, when I turn them on, while the green is on, that's about 10 minutes. When the yellow pops on, that gives you about 1 minute left in your 10 minutes. And then the red is kind of the end. So you'll have 10 minutes to make your presentations, and then we'll ask questions for 5 minutes, and we'll try to keep on schedule, but of course there's a lot of information, important information that we need to hear and you need to present. So with that, we invite the Rapid City Softball Association.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Merry Christmas to you all. And I want to thank the people that came out to our complex and actually looked at our complex and see where we're at. It's a very interesting and fun-filled complex. A lot of things happen out there. My name's Tim Callahan. I'm the president of the Rapid City Softball Association. This is Angie Bovey. She's our secretary. We have 2 other people on the board. They're Jenna McNabb. She's vice president and treasurer of the board. And Marie Allen. She's our contract officer. These questions that you asked in the Vision Fund are very good questions, but you know, a lot of them don't get to the heart and soul of what we do out there. This association is an adult sport event. I met with Richie out there today, and I kept emphasizing it was an adult league. But now with that adult league, our program starts the 1st of April, and it runs all the way to the 1st of September. And then from that point on, midget football uses our complex. We still keep up all the maintenance. We keep up everything that goes on with that complex, but the midget football program has it all the way to the end of October. On the average, we have 160 teams that participate, men and women teams out there. We have around 20 co-ed teams that participate. We've had our co-eds as high as 36 teams and our men and women's leagues as high as 200. Once we get to 190, we have to start cutting it off because we play 4 games a night out there per field. So it's 32 games going on every night, 5 days a week. If we get up and past that 200-point range, 200 team, we can't maintain it. Then we, I mean, years ago, or at least 3 or 4 years ago, we were hoping that we could get a couple more fields built. But right now, we've learned how to run a 10-team and 12-team league. It just takes longer at night. Sometimes we have to go 5 games a night. But that's okay. So we got it figured out. You know, it just so you guys know how much is really used out there. To make this happen, every day we employ over 56 employees out there. Our employees encompass the following: is first and foremost is the umpires. We have around 40 umpires out there. A lot of them are teachers. A lot of them come from all walks of life. We got grounds crew, we got maintenance crew, and then we got concession stands. For the people that was out there, you see we have 2 concession stands out there. Those are mostly all teachers. That's the only people that really got the time in the summer to spend out there. They work usually about a 5-hour shift is about all that they can get in out there. So it's not that great of a summer job, but it's enough summer job so they got a little cash to go on. And then we have a regular garbage collection. We got 76 garbage cans that's got to be emptied every day, and we got 52 recycle bins that's got to be emptied every day. If you miss a day, it piles up in the dugout, and then it just, I have very unhappy players out there. Usually I have between 32 to 3,300 opinions a week of what I'm doing wrong out there. So, you know, it usually goes pretty good. The garbage collection is a wild thing. It's dirty, it's messy, it's smelly, it's got flies. Come August, in June, July, we have wasps there. It's just a mess. We have 2 people that are just assigned to clean the bathrooms that we have. We have electrician, plumbing, and we got painting contracts. Plus, we got Dectronics, so they're always on call for us. They always with our scoreboards. We refresh our scoreboards every 4 years through the sponsorship of Coca-Cola. With the sponsorship of Coca-Cola, from that point on, they get the advertisement or choose on who gets to advertise on our scoreboards. Part of the garbage can selection, we're part of the Budweiser recycle program. If you go out there, we have those square bins out there that says Budweiser on them. They buy all their aluminum from A Salvage. And so that's where we have to take all the cans, all the recyclable cans out there. In that process, we get to keep the proceeds. The proceeds that we use from that and another snowball tournament, we give out to our ball players' children or to ball players $400 or $500 scholarship, college scholarships that can either go to Vo-Tech or a college of their choice. We're pretty successful on that. A lot of times we have 6 or 7 people that apply for the scholarship. Sometimes we only get 2. But we usually have the process. We have the means after our snowball tournament, our Easter egg hunt, and our garbage can collection that we have enough money to at least we'll always cover 4 scholarships that we give out. We have, well, like I say, we have 2 tournaments that play a big part of that. And then we have called a snowball tournament and battling breast cancer tournament. That all the proceeds of that goes to that Susan B. Komen. So a lot of stuff we do, the money, we're a nonprofit organization, so the money that we do get ahead, it really gets divvied out to organizations that, you know, like the Susan B. That's a personal thing, and we give money to that. and the scholarships. We're trying to get these kids so they get off on the right foot. $500 ain't that much, but it's something that says, okay, now I can go, you know, and I'm proud of it. King of the Hills is one of the biggest tournaments that we put out there. It's the biggest one in the state of South Dakota, second biggest in the Midwest. He has between 90, 95 teams involved in it. It's a 3-day tournament. At some points, yeah, a lot of these costs, these estimates that they have put money into the community, I don't know how they really come up with how much it influence on our community, on the people that come in here, and how much they put into our community money-wise. But through that and our national tournament that we had, they thought it put an additional $1.5 million into our economics of our community. Now, sometimes I don't know how they come up with that figure, and I think those figures come up because people that work hard on it, it makes them feel good that they do that. I don't know how they come up with that figure. If it's a sales tax, or how about if I bring in 32 relatives the same day of the tournament? They're spending as much on sales tax, but it's a good thing. I mean, they said they put $1.5 million into our community through the motels and through everything else. And slow pitch softball, a lot of it goes to the bars. The last national tournament was a big deal. That was a 4-day tournament. It encompassed 17 states. Once again, they said it put $3.5 million into the community. That was the help of the Chamber of Commerce. They're the ones that went down and promoted it with us. They brought down all the material down to Oklahoma. They sent people down there. They worked 3 years on to get it. It was a big deal, and we can only apply for it every 6 years. So I don't know if we're going to apply for it again because it's expensive. It's a very expensive tournament. You got to pay $25,000 right up front to get the tournament, and then you recover that money by the first 25 teams that come in. And then you get that money, and then from that point on, you're in the profit. So it's a teeter-totter experience. If you're willing to venture forward, you're going to get a payback, and we got a payback. But it was a lot of work for as little as we received, because the national tournament demands like polo shirts, staff shirt, a lot of stuff. We know everybody, you know, but in the national tournament, they want us to keep the same standard, and it's a very expensive standard that they set for us. Years ago, when Jerry Cole was the head of our Parks and Rec department here, he first started out, we met him, and he come down to the complex. He didn't know where it was at right away. We had to meet him at Discount Lumber to take him into the complex. And what he wanted to do is check to see if we were up to standard, see if our playground equipment was up to standard, and it was not. We had timbers that was separated the playground that kept the gravel in, and you can't use green treated timbers when youth is involved. And so we end up replacing the playground set, which is, we're one of the only association that we maintain everything from the curb in. All the grass mowing, everything is not the responsibility of the city, it's the responsibility of the Rapid City Softball Association, for the fact that that is part of our lease agreement. We have to maintain a standard of the color of that grass, the length of that grass, to their standard, or the lease could go elsewhere. Which is, I learned most all this stuff from my protege, Jim Sullivan, which is out here with the amateur. All we do is retread ourselves. Now he's over there in the baseball part of it. I've been here for 20 years doing this, following Jim. Now I coach at Jim, so he kind of grew me all the way into what we're doing right today. So anyway, as Jerry went through it, then he seen we had a pretty good thing. And then he started doing a little traffic counting, and again, these are Jerry's numbers, and he uses these numbers quite a bit, used them quite a bit. He figures on a week thing, of course we have a lot of teams, we have 32 different teams playing a night. So that's a lot of traffic in itself going out there. But he figured we had a foot traffic between 8,000 and 10,000 people that go through there per week. So therefore, once you see that, you can imagine how much those bathrooms get used. And there's a picture of our complex right there. The first 5, that first cluster you see at the bottom, that's the main, that's the first 5 fields. And then the other 3 is back 6, 7, and 8 fields. What that is each one has a concession stand, each one has a bathroom facility. Jim, while he was president, got that concession stand and restroom built on field 6, 7, and 8. We went 3 or 4 years, didn't we, Jimmy, without no concession stand, no restroom facility, no nothing up there, and Jim got the process going, and thanks for Jim, because we got it done. But now it's small and it's used, and the facility itself was built in the 90s, and our bathrooms themselves have been way overused. Our complex just is not just an event for us. We sponsor a ton of events, and we use the events. Here's some of the bathroom. That darkness on the floors there that you see is no dirt or anything. That's just the floor of the concrete. We paint them every year, and that's what you get by the end of the season. That's the men's bathroom. That right there is, it does look horrible, but, and I don't think whoever took the picture took that toilet paper out to make it look worse than what it was. But it does look terrible. Anyway, going back to where all the events we run so many different events out there. If teams have a passed away member or need a fundraiser for themselves, we let them put their own tournaments on. We'll give them a certain amount of fields. The only thing they have to do is they have to have a proof of insurance. And now that insurance is easy to get. It costs them $80 or $90 or
Costs them about $3 a team.
$3 a team. So it's even, they just have to do, we'll give them the contact information, we'll give them the phone numbers, they have to get it, they have to give us that certificate before they play out there. We've had a ball player's funeral and a wake out there on Field 1.
And a wedding.
And yeah, we've had, we've had 2 weddings out there. I never followed up and see if they're still married, but I hope they're still playing ball together, I guess, you know. We have a lot of youth fast pitch out there, in which Michael can attest right here, because my granddaughter and his daughter plays together on the fast pitch part of it. If we have any open fields at all, we're tied in with the fast pitch. We give them the dates in advance, and they can either practice out there. We've had Douglas High School, when the other 2 backfields at fast pitch wasn't complete. Douglas High School that started a girls fast pitch team for the high school association. They used our complex during our co-ed season, and we gave them 2 fields so they could practice throughout the season to be ready for the high school season. So they practice their whole high school season out there. We have other teams in the whole youth program. If we got 1 field for 2 hours, we make sure that they can use it, because that's our future too, is getting these youngsters used to coming out to our place. And then we work with Fast Pitch on the Coca-Cola Classic. It's a big tournament. It has 90 teams in it. It's a 3-day tournament. It encompasses 6 states. It's a very big, well-run tournament. Our fields are going from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night for 3 days. Our next thing that we do from, well, I already explained it to you, September 1st to October, the end of October, midget football uses the complex. We take care of everything for them. We mow the grass. They do their own striping of the fields, but we mow the grass. We drag the angle line. We drag the warning track where all the chairs set up, and they clean up their trash, and they stripe the fields, but we have to mow it. The LNI has used that for their softball tournaments, which has been a pleasure. I don't know how, I think they got out of having the fast pitch, their slow pitch tournament during the LNI. I don't know what that came about, but Price used to run that tournament for them. Then we got, just a little off track, the Rapid City Valley Fire Department comes out every year, and they run all their fire hoses out through our parking lot and up the sidewalk to test all their hoses, so they get them recertified. That's a 2-day process. They usually come in the morning, get done at 3, and then come in the morning and get done at 3 for a 2-day thing. The police department comes out quite often and train their drug dogs out there, running through the facility out in the soccer fields. So, you know, our field gets used quite a bit, is what I'm trying to say. Rapid City Sandlot, which is an over 40 league, they use our complex. They use 2 fields every Sunday out there. They're a league within our league, and it's an over 40. You have to be over 40 years old. And they range between having 20 to 40 guys out there. And they don't have an established team. They just pick up sides, choose sides, and they just go out and keep playing ball. The big thing is senior games. That's it's a national tournament that we've had out there, and another one that we have to wait 4 years before you can bid on it again. It's a 2-day tournament, and I don't think they have about 20, 25 teams in it, but they have a longer games. Instead of on the hour, our games run on the hour. They have an hour and a half, and they have a half hour. So they take a regular 2-day, probably a day and a half tournament and stretch it into almost 3 days. But it ties up the facility, and it's good for them. Our big thing is the Special Olympics. We have a lot of people involved in the Special Olympics, from Belle Fourche Sturgis to all over, and we put on our we run our district and the regionals out there. It's all softball. We have to lay the fields out differently. The base passes going up to first is a different kind of base path, and the base path going to home plate is a different. So it takes a lot of work for us to lay out a different kind of field in a field that's been established with where the bases are at. But they really enjoy it. We usually provide close to 340 meals. That's how many participants we have. We make their lunch meals. The Special Olympics pays us a certain dollar, but we provide all the lunches for them on a 2-day tournament. And then they actually have the Special Olympics have a bocce ball tournament that we put out there on field 6 and 7. Mow that grass down pretty low, and then they participate on that. And we got the the police and the firemen's tournaments that they run out there. But I want to get back to that. This is an adult sport complex. These are the people, these are the adults that support all the other organizations. They support everything in our community. These guys that are playing the game. They're the ones that support our Little League, our soccer, our hockey, our fast pitch, our wrestling, our youth. They support everything. They support our arts. They're the ones that buy the equipment for their kids. They're the ones that pays the taxes for their kids. They're the ones that do everything for their kids. And we can give these people that I think really support our community 2 games a night, 3 hours, for them to have a little relaxation and get away from the real world and play games. And with that, that's all I got. Our complex, though, and something that's a hat off to all you guys, have been put in the South Dakota Amateur Hall of Fame for the well-maintained and the complex and the fields. I don't know who put us in, how we got nominated, but we got elected and got put into the Hall of Fame. So with that, is there any questions?
Any questions, folks? Just briefly, please.
Yeah.
How much are you asking for?
We're asking for $386,000. That is for 2 bathroom groups, one on the field 5.
When would they begin? When would you begin building them?
We could start it soon. Our windows out there would be September 1st to April 1st. Because we usually start softball. We get everything going about the 1st of January, but on the field physically playing, we don't start until the last week of April. But we're usually out there April 2nd or 3rd getting everything ready. Okay.
And you provided your professional estimates that ready to rock and roll?
Yes, we did, yep.
And then I really don't have many more questions. We were out there, we did the site tour, and those bathrooms, I don't know if you've ever been to Alcatraz in San Francisco, but they're worse than Alcatraz. So,
well, you're seeing them at the end of the season, Now, at the beginning of the season...
We get the point, so thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Bet, thank you. Okay, next we invite the YMCA, please.
So this is advancing it? Okay. I need to put it up on the screen first, and then I'll start. Perfect. Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And thank you for the opportunity to share with you the broad and critically important impact of this project. Those of you who know me, some of you may know me, know that I'm an avid cyclist who enjoys competing in long-distance races, which requires a good bike and a strong chain, so please bear with me as I use this illustration to explain the broad community impact of this project and why using vision funds just makes sense, as it both supports important community needs and has a broad impact that strengthens those far beyond the YMCA organization, like the chain that powers the bike. Each chain link in of itself must be strengthened. And so the first link in this chain that moves us forward in this project is the City of Rapid City. I've heard Mayor Allender accurately describe how, as our Rapid City community grows, so grows the need for city services. As the need for city services grows, comes the need for city infrastructure to grow, and foundational to this infrastructure is an adequate building to house and support the people that provide the valuable services and leadership. It is no secret that CSAC has run out of space. A costly capital campaign project of CSAC could solve that problem. Instead, an innovative solution was brought forward, an innovative solution that ultimately saves millions, with an M, millions of tax dollars, and it opens up substantial space in this building. And this leads to the second link in the chain, Rapid City area schools. Oops. Like the city, our school district continues to grow to meet the challenges of a diverse, growing student population, increasing federal regulations and requirements, and ensuring that each child's academic, social, and emotional needs are met in a challenging environment. While it's not fun to think about, the plain fact is that the school district needed to consolidate space to support crucial functions. This wasn't going to happen at CSAC without a costly expansion project. Given that Rapid City area schools and the YMCA have partnered in so many different ways for decades in service to children and families in this community, again, it just made sense for the district to vacate CSAC and join the YMCA in this project, whereby the school district owns 4 floors and the YMCA owns 4 floors of the former Black Hills Corporation building, and the 2 organizations share common spaces. Much like the arrangement here at CSAC, this makes the first link stronger, the second link stronger, and the third link, downtown Rapid City, is made stronger. The good news last year was that Black Hills Energy built a beautiful large campus in South Rapid City, thereby solidifying the corporate presence of a crucial major employer in our community. The bad news is that it was a major employer that pulled out of downtown, which left a prominent downtown building vacant and with an uncertain future. When the YMCA Early Childhood and Teen Development Project is completed, this building will be fully restored, fully brought up to code, and will be a major contributor to downtown as a regional activity center that, according to the Rapid City Comprehensive Plan, increases opportunities to meet differing child care, workforce, and teen program needs of Rapid City residents. And, as is well known, a strong downtown leads to strengthening the fourth link in this chain, the Rapid City community. You see, while the YMCA is actively engaged in 47 different partnerships in this community, with a program presence in 23 locations, the YMCA has purposely kept our capital presence downtown. As downtown is a neutral area that is safe for people from all parts of the community strategically, this is a key part of our mission, to bring people from all kinds of backgrounds together in unity for something good. As soon as we build a branch in North Rapid, South Rapid, West Rapid, or anywhere else, we automatically segregate a group of people. Instead, the YMCA campus downtown is a place where the whole community comes together. People from all kinds of backgrounds joining together side by side in youth development, healthy living, and social responsibility, which is especially important in this age of division. Beyond this critical impact, the community is also strengthened in the effective use of tax dollars, whereby the City of Rapid City and Rapid City area schools obtain greater infrastructure support for less tax dollars if this partnership did not come about. And on top of this, as if this were the icing of the cake, which I think is more of the cake, the additional child care from this project supports and adds to the workforce and creates an estimated 40 FTEs. All of this also serves to strengthen the fifth link in the chain, the YMCA. While it's true that every year more than 1 in 4 people living in Rapid City are connected to the YMCA as a member, volunteer, donor, or program participant, I never take for granted that people know what the Y is about. To help with this, allow me to share with you a brief video. The YMCA's ability to increase capacity in early childhood development and in teen development is strengthened in this project. This project adds another 160 children from infants to pre-K to early childhood education childcare and provides a laboratory experience and training that we call early learning readiness for up to 72 informal caregivers each year, both of which have a very clear and direct impact on grade level reading, which has been a community priority of the United Way and the John T. Vukurovich Foundation the last several years. This project also supports and expands Y Youth Institute that uses media technology to give teens a safe place, a sense of family, builds character, and teaches marketable skills. This project takes a well-established and highly respected organization that was founded by community leaders in the 1940s, has grown from a small youth center in an old gas station to an organization that has had a profound, life-changing impact on tens of thousands of people over multiple generations, that has worked hard over the decades with passionate and hard-working volunteers and staff to have a direct impact each year on over 20,000 different boys, girls, women, and men of all ages, races, faiths, abilities, and economic backgrounds, that has fostered over 40 partnerships to benefit the community, that initiated this project for key partners so that by working together and supporting one another, we once again demonstrate that the entire chain powers our community. You like the little chain that's going? And with that, I'll take questions.
Any questions? Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the information, Roger, and we really appreciated the tour that you gave of the building. It's pretty fabulous what's happening over there. Can you just give us an update on where we're at on the remaining fundraising? I know you're not asking for vision funds for the entire balance remaining, but can you update us on how you're doing for the rest of the fundraising?
Thank you. So since we last visited, again, we haven't stopped campaigning. Since we last visited, we added 100,000. So we've raised just about $5 million. So that leaves now $2,250,000 in round numbers yet to be raised.
And then because I'm sure we've explained the process to you, as
Sure.
as a citizens committee, we make a recommendation
Yes.
to the council looks at the recommendation, and then they make the ultimate decision. In the event the council doesn't approve the entire amount that you're requesting, because you're already in progress on the remodel of the building and you're already kind of looking to move there, what does that do for the completion of the project?
Yeah. Puts us in a tough spot. I mean, quite honestly. You know, our druthers, frankly, would have been to wait on the start of the project. But for the project to move ahead, we had to move ahead with our partner, with the school district. School district was ready and needed to move, and as the folks know from the city, needed to move. And so it again just made sense that we had to do this together. Otherwise, if we carried out two different contracts, the cost for this project was going to be substantial. So what that did was it put a great deal of pressure on us to complete the fundraising in a shorter period of time. We've been at it for 3 years, and we are working like the dickens. And the truth is, we live in a time where there are, as you know, and you're seeing them, there are a lot of great, wonderful projects out there, worthy of support, and there are donors out there who are supporting projects like ours and others. Just makes it tougher and tougher all the time to keep raising the money. But the bottom line to your question is, Heather, we can't give up. We just got to keep going and keep going hard.
So there's not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but so there's not the potential that you wouldn't complete one of the floors, or that something would remain undone in the meantime? You would just kind of power through and finance it, or?
We got to raise the money. You know, when it comes down to it, and maybe it's the part of me that's in denial. When it comes right down to it, and we're forced with that decision, then we're capable of making that decision. But our optimistic eyes are just pushing forward to say, we've got to do this. I mean, this project is too important. We've got to raise the money. And with support from the Vision Fund, this puts us in a great position to not only complete it, but also to leverage this to others to demonstrate, wow, now we've just got a little bit more to go. Let's do this.
I have a few questions. If you could address specifically what it is you're doing and how much it cost. You're renovating and you purchased the 4 floors. How did you purchase that? Are you condominium owners, or how are you going to pay taxes on it? Can you explain that?
Thank you. So the Black Hills Corporation sold the building to us for $6 million. Then we turned around simultaneously, just instantly, then sold half the portion to the school district for $3 million. So there are 3 entities. The school district owns their 4 floors, we own our 4 floors, and then the common space is under the ownership of a condo association, and its 2 members are the school district and the YMCA. So that's how it was arranged. So certainly we have our shared space that has to deal with mechanical systems, fire safety systems, and so forth. But as far as our respective floors, those are our floors to work with.
And so that was $3 million. Where'd you get that money?
We raised the money. So the money that we raised, that $5 million, then $3 million went to buy the building.
And the other $2 million is,
Being used for renovation, and so that remaining, if I do the math right, that's about 4.2, let me just look up here real quick. Page. Okay, the total, oh, here we go. So, yep, it's about 4.25 then that is the total renovation cost. So we have about 2 million of that, and then the rest is what we have to raise.
then how much are you requesting from the Vision Fund?
So about half of that, which is $1,190,000.
And how long did it, over what period of time did you raise this money to purchase your interest in the building and get
Yeah.
things going?
We started our campaign in 2016.
And the 4 floors, if you could briefly describe the activities on each of the 4 floors,
Yeah.
please.
So we own the first, third, fourth, and fifth floors. The first floor is predominantly childcare, and predominantly the infant and the up to 2 years old. And then the third floor will have 4 more classrooms for childcare. And then the fifth floor will have 2 classrooms for childcare, as well as a large multi-purpose area for gross motor skills.
And any other, are you going to have administration
Oh, I'm
offices?
sorry. Yep, thank you. Thank you. And on the fifth floor, left out the fifth floor, half of the fifth floor then is dedicated to the Youth Institute, so that's the media technology, which is going to be ideally suited for that program. Given the time, I could describe all sorts of stories. There's some great stuff going on. The other half then is set up as a training center, a meeting room, and I'm going to move a few offices over there too. But that training center then helps us with that laboratory experience for the early learning readiness training for informal caregivers.
And what about access, like dropping kids off to get into the building? Have you addressed that issue?
We have. Actually, the time it takes for you to pull up to the to loading and unloading area, enter the building, take the elevator to your room, and then come back down the elevator and check out and back into your room is almost identical to the time you experience in the main YMCA building now. The key to that, of course, is the access that parents will have, so secured access, as well as the elevators that are going to, and part of this project is putting $300,000 into making sure those elevators are top quality and top functioning, because there's going to be a lot of traffic going up and down there.
And so, on the other side of the building, are you going to have like a little playground or parking or anything?
Yes, thank you. So playground is on the west side of the building. Right now, there was executive parking. So most of that area, about 4,800 square feet of that area, is going to be a new playground with direct access for the kids.
All right, well, thank you very much. Any other questions from the committee? Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, then, next, we invite Youth and Family Services to present, please.
Give me the high 5 minutes, will you? Good evening. My name is Margot Julius, and I'm currently Board President of Youth and Family Services. Thank you for having us. YFS has been a vital part of this community for over 50 years, and for 25 of those, I've been an active volunteer board member, and I've seen the growth through this agency, and I'm really excited about our expansion project at East Adams. We have a lot of stuff that we submitted by written materials, and some of you have gone out and got to see our progress on our building and listened to a little bit longer presentations and more details from us, and we really appreciate that. I want to cover, I don't want to rehash a lot of the stuff that I think is contained in the materials that show just how consistent this is with the vision and the city's comprehensive plan. But I want to focus on some of the things we've learned throughout the years and how we've incorporated that into our expansion project and our new building. First, we know that it takes about 3 years of comprehension interaction with families to bring about long-term change, and that's why we work with families over a long period of time. And second, child and family problems are usually very complex, especially a lot of the ones that we see with the families that we help serve. So we know that solutions have to be multifaceted and incorporate various community services and agencies, and we collaborate very well with those agencies to make sure to give our families the best chance of long-term success. Third, we know there are 2 critical ages for brain and body development. That's ages birth to 3 and the middle school years. And so we place special attention on programs for these ages, and that's what a lot of our new innovative programs are focusing on that are in our building design in our new facility that I'm really excited about. First, I want to tell you just a little bit about our middle school program, because I think everyone in here, and I think Roger would agree from the YMCA, that the middle school is a critical age and there's a critical need for programs designed for middle school kids. And I also think it dovetails our program and our space that we're going to have in the new facility for that dovetails very nicely with the Pathways program in the schools, and I think that it'll work to enhance student success in that program as well, and that's one of our goals. We know from talking to other agencies and working with other community resources like the police departments, the court systems, the schools, and other nonprofits, that there's not only a need for middle school kids, but for their families. And one of the things that we want to accomplish with this expansion is right now we've got places all over Rapid City that we lease. And for families, for our families, for a lot of the families that we serve, if they do have a reliable vehicle, getting different kids in the programs to different places to fully take advantage of all that we have to offer, it's just not feasible. So we want to move a lot of those, and that's part of our sustaining budget that you'll see in the materials as to how we're going to fund this project after we build it, is that we're going to take all the lease, we're going to save money on all the leases, but better yet, for our families, we're going to have a one-stop shop where they can come and they can make the Stronger Family programs. Their kids can go to the middle school programs. They can have their kids in the child care. And I'm really excited about that because I'm all about removing barriers to help people succeed a little bit easier, and that's what we do. And this is going to help us do it much more effectively. One of the great things about the middle school programs is we're partnering with some students from School of Mines, and they're going to be working with our kids with 3D printers that they're designing. And the technology and the opportunity for that is one thing in of itself. But what really excites me is, middle school is a tough time. I don't want to go back there. I don't even want to remember my nickname that they gave me in middle school. I wasn't from any kind of economically challenged family. It was a difficult time. But I know that when older students, especially college students, when you're exposed to that caliber of a student, good things can really happen, and I'm really excited about that. I think it can boost our middle school kids' self-esteem. I think that when they realize that these kids are coming because they want to help them, they want to spend time with them, and they want to have fun with them, and they want to show them these new innovations, and that they can do it too. I think it just increases their worth, and I'm excited about that program. One more thing that I really want to touch on in our new facility. You've got a handout, and I had a fancy PowerPoint, but I'm a lawyer and I just talk a lot, and so I just had them printed out for you. So you can, if you turn over the back, you can see these green and blue shaded areas. That's going to be our new infant toddler area, and our staff, they go to trainings and they brought back this wonderful concept called the neighborhood concept, and it's a concept that's proven to reduce regression that you see when an infant transfers to a preschool site. So the cool thing about this is we've got our child care rooms flanked on each side, or preschool flanked by the infant toddler. And so there's windows in there, they can actually watch what these preschoolers are doing. And so the transition is proven that the transition to that next level shows a lot less regression. Now, I could go on, but I want Greg to tell you about our financials because we've been planning this a long time. We have incrementally planned for this expansion as we can afford it. And so I want him to give you some of the details on that and then be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Margot. I'm Greg Schweiss. I'm the treasurer of the Board of Youth and Family Services. And I want to start by just giving you a little bit of a sense of the scope of our agency as a whole. We have an annual operating budget of about $15 million a year, and that's to fund the 9 major programs that we operate here in Rapid City. Now, as you might imagine, funding on an annual basis for those programs is a big challenge. It's not easy, but we fund those programs through a combination of federal grants, private foundation grants, a few fees for services and some of the services we provide, and then a lot of generous support from donors who are big friends of Youth and Family Services. One of the things we're most proud of is that out of that $15 million that we raise every year to fund the organization, 87% of that goes to our program expenses, and only 13% of that goes to administration and fundraising expenses. That's a number or ratio that, excuse me, we work very hard to maintain because obviously we want to funnel as many of those dollars as we can to the programs that help the kids and the families that we work with. Now on to some specifics about the project itself. Excuse me, the project cost is just a little under $14 million. Excuse me, I think that was in some of the materials that we submitted. To date, we've raised $9.7 million of that. Fortunately, we have some very supportive bankers that have provided a bridge loan for temporary financing for the remainder of the project, so there's no risk that the project will need to stop before completion. So our goal is to work on the remainder of that funding to pay off the bridge loan. Some people probably wonder, and rightfully so, why we started the project this past spring when we didn't have 100% of that funding committed at that point. And there was a number of reasons we chose to do that. First of all, as Margot mentioned, we're just running out of space. Some of the Head Start programs that we operate require more and more classroom space for the children, and we're short of that space. Some of the family programs we operate, we're having to lease space, different places around town. We have leases at the Rushmore Mall, we have leases in the Gap on West Main, and we have a lease on Cedeville Lane. So we're looking forward to consolidating the programs under one roof when we complete the building expansion. Another reason that we decided to move forward this spring is there was an opportunity to participate in a program called the New Markets Tax Credit Program, which is a great program under the Internal Revenue Code that allows us to partner with for-profit businesses to fund a project like ours in a low-income area. And that money became available this spring, and we weren't certain that it would be available again in the future, so we wanted to take advantage of that as well. And finally, we talked to a number of the contractors in the area who indicated that they felt like it was just a really good time to put our project out for bids. They said it was early in the year, a lot of the contractors didn't have their plate full for the year, still had resources to commit. So based on all of those factors, we decided after great analysis that we would move forward and put the project out for bids. We were very pleased to find out that the bids came in even less than expected. So those contractors were correct. They provided us great advice, and the construction cost was less than we first expected. The other thing I want to point out that is, in addition to making sure that we fund the cost of construction, we've spent a lot of time making sure that we can fund the operating cost of that space once the construction is completed. And we have a plan in place to fund the operating costs and the costs of the programs that will fill that space. Now, to summarize, back to the numbers, a $14 million project. We've raised $9.7 million to date from contributions from generous donors, some private foundation grants, and a little over $3 million of financing from that New Markets Tax Credit Program. So we're down to about $4.2 million. As you know, our request to the Vision Fund Committee was for $1,950,000. So it's a very, very large number, but it's 14% of our total project cost. So we're committed to to trying to raise the other 86% of that project cost through other means or other sources. In terms of the final 2 or 2+ million, if we're fortunate enough to receive vision funds, our development staff is still working with a number of donors, some of whom said, come back to us towards the end of the project. Once you're getting close to the finish line, we would like to make some pledges at that point to kind of get you over that final hurdle. So we're optimistic that with some vision funds and those final donors that we can get to the remaining 4.2 million that we need to fund the project. So in summary, obviously if the Vision Fund Committee would be willing to consider and grant our request, we would be very, very grateful. Even if you weren't able to fund the entire amount of our request, we'd be very grateful for any amount that you might consider. With that, I'll open it up for questions.
Chair recognizes Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. Very well done. Information that we have is substantial. So you've just talked about $14 million and $4 million and some pretty big numbers, right?
Right.
So what stands out to me is the 800,000 meals that you guys provided, particularly in this global economy where hunger insecurity is huge, not just here, but everywhere. So that, to me, is an important number, that 800,000 meals. And then additionally, you went from serving 8,500 children and families to 14,000. So those are the real numbers that we're talking about, and it's amazing what you're doing. So
thanks for pointing that out.
Not so much of a question as this is progress. Thank you.
We're really proud of what we're doing. And I've been on, like I said, I've been on the board for 25 years, and this has been in the works through our strategic plan for about 10 years, and we have incrementally done what we could financially to plan for this expansion. We bought the food bank property in 2014, the Brody property in 2015, to expand, to make it a safe campus in a neighborhood that deserves this facility. You know, we're right down from beautiful General Beadle School. I'm proud of it, and I'm excited for it. And another thing that I didn't mention, though, that's really cool, we had focus groups for this middle school program. And we asked the kids, what do you want to see? We want people to be there. We want them to participate. And so we went and asked our kids, our families, what do you need? What can we do to make things, to reduce the barriers, to make our programs more effective? And we integrated a lot of those into this building. So I'm really excited about it. And I'm really having a lot of sleepless nights over it as well. So hence I had to reapply my makeup today before I came.
Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for not being able to make it to the site for the site visit this year, but I was able to come and see what you were doing 2 years ago, and I have to tell you that I'm incredibly impressed by the progress you've made, both physically at the location and financially with regards to the amount of fundraising you've been doing, and kudos to you for that. That's very impressive to me. I do have a question about your the information that you provided about your operating revenues and expenses with planned program expansion in the first year. So I really do appreciate you putting this information together. It's very helpful. But it appears to me that you're anticipating an operating deficit with the new program. And so can you just talk to me a little bit about how do you anticipate covering those kinds of operating deficits on an ongoing basis once the program's up and running?
Yeah, I'll try to address that. I don't know if I know exactly what you have in front of you, but in terms of funding the new space and the programs that will be operated there, some of that's going to come from eliminating the 3 leased facilities that we have today. That money can be redirected to that space. Some of it is expansion of programs like Head Start, which will fund the cost dollar for dollar that we incur to run those programs in that space. And undoubtedly, our development staff still has some work, or always has work in front of them in terms of continually looking for grant sources to fund programs, fund any shortfalls that we might have, et cetera. At this point, we don't anticipate any significant shortfall in terms of operating costs to fund the space and the programs that are in it.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. So I believe you also have a foundation, a YFS foundation.
Correct.
Do they have some type of an endowment or something available for covering any of your operating costs? Or I guess, do you have another source in that regard to cover some of these things?
Yeah, we do have a foundation, you're correct, and there are some dollars in the foundation. One of the things they've done the last couple of years, of course, is assist us with raising funds for the building project, and have transferred those funds over to the operating organization now for the construction project. But they continue to have some funds and some assets in the foundation that is a backstop, if you will, in terms of any emergency needs.
And that isn't a problem that we haven't had in the past. You know, we bring about $10 million from outside the community in the terms of federal grants. We've survived, not only survived, but thrived over lots of different presidents and administrations. So we're really innovative on finding different grant opportunities. And I think during the time I've been on the board, we've had 1 year where we have had a loss with those challenges.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Hold on just a second. Jolynn, I didn't notice, sorry. Chair recognizes Jolynn.
Oh, no, I just want to say I was there. Thank you for the brownies. You guys had good brownies.
It was the homemade bread that kept me here for 25 years, but those brownies will do it too. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Moving on then, we invite Black Hills Sports to the podium.
Thank you. Need my, Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm Roger Tellinghusen. I'm the spokesperson for Black Hills Sports. I have some folders that I'd like to hand out. Would it be appropriate for me just to bring them up and hand them out to you? Thank you.
Yeah, they would have been during the first. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to go ahead and start. I know we have folks that are supporters that are filtering in, but I know you're also on a schedule. So with that, I want to thank the committee for giving us this opportunity to come and visit with you about our request for Floyd Fitzgerald Stadium. Most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the stadium itself. It's a city-owned property over in Sioux Park. It's been in existence since 1956. It was built as a stadium for the Basin League. Actually, the Chiefs played there for Rapid City and continued to play there until the early 60s when that league went out of business. And at that time, our blue ribbon tenant, which is kind of filtering in here now, took over. And Black Hills Sports, whom I represent, was incorporated in February of 1956, and it's a nonprofit corporation whose sole purpose If you turn to tab number 1 in the little booklet that's been handed out to you, it's a copy of the annual report for Black Hills Sports from 1999. It's the earliest one that I could get from the Secretary of State's office, but it shows, if you'll read the item number 2, it says the nature of the affairs which the corporation is conducting in South Dakota is administration and operation of Floyd Fitzgerald Baseball Park. And that's been its existence, that's been its purpose since it was incorporated in 1956. What Black Hills Sports does with that field is it is the liaison between you as the city of Rapid City. I almost said Spearfish. Harken back to where I used to live, excuse me. But the city of Rapid City and the tenant that's there now. And Black Hills Sports is in charge of the concessions and the sale of the signage out on the outfield fence. And with the money that it raises from that, it then pays for the maintenance of that property. And the city of Rapid City has not had to pay for the maintenance. I will admit, Rapid City has provided water to sprinkle the natural grass. And to the best of our knowledge, just in the last couple of years, Rapid City, because it's self-insured, replaced the roof when we had a hail claim to make at the park. But all of that other maintenance has been, I guess, absorbed, if you will, by Black Hills Sports and its tenant. We've hosted 3 World Series for the American Legion there, and each time that a World Series was held at that park, we broke the previous attendance record. And since 1961, Black Hills Sports has had, their tenant, their blue ribbon tenant that we like to call them, has had 42 state championships. It's just unbelievable. They are an iconic program that utilizes that stadium, and it's put Rapid City on the map when it comes to baseball nationally. The economic impact of Fitzgerald Stadium can't be overstated. Last year, we estimate that we had, well, we don't estimate, we know, we had over 19,000 fans that came to that stadium. And that's we've calculated using figures that were provided by Dan Sefner for I guess the figure to use for an out-of-town person coming into Rapid City to spend a day or a weekend, and we used an 18% figure for the out-of-town visitors of those 19,000 fans that went to the park. The economic impact of Rapid City was $1.5 million last year. That's been going on since 1956, folks. I can't tell you. If you look in the handout that I gave you, I gave you a copy of my outline, so none of this is going to be a big surprise to you. You can follow along with me here, but you can see all of the different states that send teams to Rapid City, South Dakota to play baseball here. And with those teams come their parents and their grandparents, and they spend money here. If we can upgrade our stadium, we believe we can attract even bigger tournaments to Rapid City. And I have to put this in a context for you. You know, we talk about a stadium that's 62 years old. Well, it was built when I was 3. So you look at me now, I'm 65. This stadium has not had any significant or major renovations done to it in 62 years.
It hasn't aged as well as you, Rob.
Well, thanks. I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but Tom, can you bring up I'm not sure how to do this. I want to show you some pictures.
Is the PowerPoint loaded already?
Yeah. Is I doing that right? No, I'm not doing that right.
This one.
Okay. What we've done is we've loaded some pictures to this PowerPoint for you, and I know that some of you that had the opportunity to come to the site visit had a much better opportunity to see some of this. But the photograph on the left is of the ticket booth, and the reason we took a picture of that is the roof leaks. The photo to the right is absolutely outstanding to me. This is an actual photo that was taken during one of the firecracker tournaments during July at Fitzgerald Field, and what looks like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory down in the middle there, that's water in the dugout. The players are standing on the bench in the dugout because the dugout flooded. We have a real drainage problem at Fitzgerald Field that, with your assistance, we will be able to address. Let's go to the next photo, Tom. I want to just show you some of these photos here. Okay, the ticket booth, the HVAC, you can see the big hole in the ceiling up above the ticket booth. Again, it hasn't been renovated or had any major alterations to it since 1956. The electrical box, the communication and data box is, as you can see, rather archaic. Let's go to the next. This is the kitchen. I like to eat hot dogs at the baseball games, but I'm not sure I'd eat them after having been in the kitchen personally. It's just very old, and it really needs to be redone. Now, concession sales is where Black Hill Sports is able to generate funding with which it then maintains Fitzgerald Field. So it's kind of a hand-in-glove operation, if you will. Here we have the concession ceiling, which also, the roof in the concession stand leaks. The crow's nest, as you can see on the right, the wood is literally starting to rot. And that's just a function of age, folks. It needs to be redone. The bleachers, at this day and age, in 1956, we didn't think much about sitting out in the sun, but we do today. And the only shade that we have at the stadium right now is what you see in these two photographs. The one on the left is the shade down the first base line, and the one on the right is the shade that's available down on the right field line, or the third base line, excuse me. And you'll note the seating under that shade is seating without backs. And so for elderly fans, fans my age, who want to sit in the shade and avoid the sun, we have to either choose to not go to the stadium or sit on bleachers with no backs to them. These are the bleachers that are there now, and you can see the example on the right, how the wood is starting to rot. There are a number of instances where those bleachers that you're looking at on the left have 2x4s underneath them to hold them together so that when fans sit on them, they don't collapse. This is an instance on the left of, again, of the drainage problem at the stadium. That's gravel that has washed down into the seating area. The photo on the right, upper right, is the other dugout that flooded during that rainstorm, and those kids are literally standing in water up to their waist. Tom just reminded me, and this is something that I think is very serious and concerning for the city of Rapid City, which owns this facility. There's live electricity in those dugouts. Fortunately, on this occasion, the circuit breakers did what they're supposed to do, and they tripped. So nobody got hurt. This is just another example of the ramps coming down to the fields. Again, they're not ADA compliant, and it's just a function of being a really, really old field. I want to just talk about what our request is here a little bit before we move on to the next series of photographs. But South Dakota has been invited to put a bid in for the regional tournament for the American Legion. That would mean a 2-year commitment that the regional tournaments would occur here in Rapid City. There's only one other city in South Dakota that's been invited to do that. I don't need to mention who they are, but that's who we would compete with. And we believe we have a much better place to have that tournament held. We have an iconic program here in Rapid City, and we deserve to have this program in Rapid City, but we need a stadium to hold it in. We could also become a contender for another World Series. We've had 3 World Series here in Rapid City. Post 22 won one of those World Series in 1993. But with the quality of our stadium today, we don't stand a chance. We're asking for $1.65 million over the course of the next 3 years. If you go to tab number 4, 5, and 6 in the booklet that I've handed to you, I'm going to move this along a little bit. You can see what we have posted up here on the PowerPoint, examples of the architecture's idea of what we could do with $5 million for this project. We can build a stadium that can compete with the best of them in the United States, just as our team does. This is, can we go back one, Tom? This is the budget, and it's in your booklet. It's at tab number 5. And again, for $5 million, we can not only replace the fan experience that exists today, but we can also put in AstroTurf. And the importance of AstroTurf is this. By having AstroTurf in this facility, we can make this facility much more multi-use than just for baseball. The problem that you have with a natural grass field is you can't have a lot of heavy things happening on the field itself. But with an AstroTurf field, we could host concerts, we could have soccer occurring in the spring and the fall when the soccer fields are otherwise too wet. We could have BMX competitions. An example would be the Civic Center last year called and asked, they had a circus in town, but they had no place to put it. Wondered if they could put it at Fitzgerald Field. 2 problems. 1, natural grass field. You can't have a lot of heavy weight out on the field. And 2, we didn't have enough seating. The City of Rapid City has 1,500 seats available to bring into a venue like this, but we'd need the other 3,500 seats, which this project would provide. The other thing AstroTurf will do for us, and I just want to stress this, is it'll avoid rainouts. Omaha, for instance, which hosted the World Series and has for the last several years, last year had 5 days of rain. But they were able to conduct the tournament anyway because they have an AstroTurf field and could play on it. In Rapid City, when we've had rainy spells during the firecracker tournament, we've had to cancel the tournament. And that's a big loss of revenue to the City of Rapid City and to our program. So I just want to stress to you that this is a city-owned project. It's an iconic facility. It's an iconic program. And I really believe that if you would make this investment, it'll go another 62 years without needing a major improvement or upgrade. And, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that the committee might have.
Thank you very much. Questions, folks? Chair recognizes Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am a microphone hog tonight. My apologies. Thanks for your presentation and the time and the effort, and we really appreciate all of you young folk and not so young folk coming to show your support. I guess my first question would be, of the $5 million project, what would be the contribution from Black Hills Sports? What's your contribution to that project?
The contribution from Black Hills Sports is we would be willing to continue to manage the property and maintain the property. We don't have any other source of income, madam. What we do is we simply operate the concession stand and we sell the signage on the back wall of the outfield, and with that money we then pay for the maintenance of the field itself. That's the only source of income that we have.
So you have done no fundraising for this project to date?
Not as Black Hills Sports. No, we have not. Now, I must point out, though, that Post 22, our tenant, they do a lot of fundraising, but they fundraise to operate their program, which is a very, it takes a lot of money to travel to the places where they play and to bring the teams in that they play. Black Hills Sports is a nonprofit organization with a bunch of volunteers like me sitting on its board.
So is there any intention to do fundraising in the future?
We haven't crossed that bridge yet. We were hoping that this committee would help us out, and then we'll see where that goes from there.
So if there was only a recommendation to the city for partial funding, and the city approved partial funding, what would be your intention to complete the project?
Our intention would be first to see if you, let's say for instance, this committee only recommended $3.5 million. And so at that point, we would have to give up the AstroTurf improvement to the field. We could do the rest of the renovation to the project, which is really the fan-based renovations, the renovations that the fan experience will improve. Would hope that the city would see the benefit to having an AstroTurf field for not only the baseball that occurs there, but all of the other events that could occur there as well. But if it's less than $5 million, we'll have to prioritize and figure out what we can do with the money that the city will allow us.
Thank you. Got a few questions here. Chair recognizes Tim.
These are all very well-rounded numbers. Is any part of that contingency?
10% of this, Tim, is contingency, is what I'm told from the company that gave us this estimate.
And how firm are these numbers?
Well, I will tell you this, we don't have architectural drawings for this project because, of course, that costs money, and we don't have money. And so the date of this estimate is August 8th of 2018. I think it's as close as we could come under the circumstances.
Okay. And one final question. Just doing the quick math, am I correct in that the turf would cost approximately $1,775,000?
Actually, I think it'd be more correct to assume that the turf would be $1.5 million because we will have to do a lot of landscaping and drainage work on the field itself, even if we have it as natural gas, because
would you like me to answer?
Go ahead, Tom.
Is this on? Okay.
Yep.
Tom Weaver, friend of the program. This is something that we wanted to get, and we're going to hand out a copy of this to add to the packets. The cost estimate right now for just the turf itself is about $495,000, and that would include 2 bullpens as well as the entire field. But what you have to remember is that's just the AstroTurf, and again, we'll get you all copies of this. When you look at the site prep and how you have to grade the field, a lot of the initial work is up front and to get that established. So that is an all-in cost, regardless if whether or not we would do AstroTurf. There's still about $250,000 in site prep and grading because over the years, as the field has been maintained to the best of basically the volunteer labor, it slopes upward, and that's where the water drains towards the dugouts and towards the backstops. So the field needs to be regraded no matter what, and that preparation includes the preparation, the drain tile, the AstroTurf, the installation, and the warranty work all up front. The turf itself will last anywhere from 12 to 15 years, probably closer to 15 because of the uses on the field. And the quote that we got in today's dollars to just re-skin it, put the top after all this is done, 15 years later in today's dollars about $300,000. So all your costs are up front.
Are there any plans to raise that $300,000?
It's a good question.
Well, that's a good question. That would be part of what Black Hill Sports does in terms of raising money by through the operation of the concessions and selling signage. It'd be part of our overall maintenance costs that we would continue to
But you would
operate.
be prepared to bear that cost in the future?
Yes.
Thank you.
And do you mind if I add to Roger's comment with Heather's initial question, if you don't mind, on the initial upfront fundraising?
Go ahead.
One of the things is I was reaching out earlier, as I've helped Roger with this from the beginning, is there is interest. If the city's willing to work with us on naming rights, we do have a lot of interest. As a matter of fact, I think at one point I had over 500,000 that would like to invest in naming rights in certain parts of the field if it was recaptured, remodeled. The only pushback, and I'm trying to be completely transparent on this, is that they don't want to do that on something that's old and put their shiny name on something that's older, and that will help us maintain the field. These companies that are willing to do this, again, if the city's willing to do that, want to do that after the field is remodeled. So it can help with the upkeep of the field, because this is a capital expenditure, and what they're trying to help is the ongoing maintenance and the sustainability of, as Roger put it, the gold plaid tenant. So,
if I could also just add, Mr. Chairman, real quick to Heather's question. By allowing the facility to be used for more uses than what it's currently used for, which is one of our goals, it will allow for more fundraising that way too. I mean, in terms of user expenses or user fees, et cetera. One idea that I just heard today, I hadn't heard before, is with that big parking lot out there, having a flea market out in the parking lot, you know, on a weekend and sell vendor spaces to potential people like me that have a garage full of crap that I need to get rid of. Really, seriously, but I mean, that's a use that it's new and hopefully fresh.
Chair recognizes Mark.
So with no current fundraising option that you have you thought about partnering with businesses in town or looking at other possible funding sources for this project?
I'm going to let Tom address that. He's been involved in the program longer than I have.
You're talking about to build, I guess, remodel the stadium on the city's land and property? Or let's say for like a loan, is that what you're asking?
No, I'm wondering if there are businesses out there that you've collaborated with that maybe want to support this or other funding sources within the community.
It kind of goes back to what I had mentioned earlier with Heather, is that people are willing to help us generate revenue for the sustainability of the field through naming rights, as long as the Parks and Recreation Department and the city is willing to work with us on those. But they're not really looking to invest their corporate dollars, to be, again, honest, into a city project. It is a city asset. We do have in your packets a plan if we were able to get the money awarded to do the construction all up front, and we do have a consortium of banks that are willing to participate and get the project done all at once with qualified guarantors and the help of Black Hill Sports. Some of the financing details would probably have to be worked out with the city if we were awarded any money on that, because a property like that cannot be mortgaged. All you can do is take an assignment of the proceeds and the commitment from the Vision Committee. So I don't know if that really answered your question, but I think that there would be some willingness to help if there's a little bit more shine put to the property.
Sure. Thank you.
And if I could just add very quickly, I was remiss in not pointing out that at tab 7 of the handout to you, we have copies of the letters from the various local banks that are willing to participate in that loan, to make that loan of the full amount available so that the renovation can begin at the end of the baseball season in July of 2019. So it would be finished by the spring of 2020, and then just repayable out of a 3-year commitment from the city.
Chair recognizes Megan.
Thank you, Chair. So your timeline would be to start at the end of this season and to be completed by when?
By the spring of 2020.
Have you got on the books with the AstroTurf company?
We talked to them, Megan, and you know, after we met out at the site and you raised the concern about their availability, they said if we were able to commit to them that we were ready to go, they could begin and complete within 60 days. So, and I'm glad you brought that up when we were out there, because that forced us to go back to them and get this commitment from them.
I don't see too many more questions, so I have a few comments and questions. The $5 million project budget, that's been the numbers, they were hammered out by Skull Construction.
That's correct.
And at least when we went out to do the site tour, Mr. Skull was out there?
Yes.
All right. Then, with respect to the Black Hill Sports, you've been doing this for 62 years?
Yes, sir.
How much do you make a year to cover maintenance and everything?
Well, I think on a really good year, we probably generate about $40,000. That'd be
40 to 50.
$40,000 to $50,000, which all goes back to maintenance of the facility. We don't have any paid employees per se. We do pay one person from the program as our maintenance supervisor, but the rest of it is just on a as-needed basis when we hire either the program parents or outside maintenance to come in and do what needs to be done.
And then, very briefly, but the money that Post 22 makes, they travel all over the country, don't they? I mean, they have bats and uniforms and travel expenses, meals. They have quite a big budget, correct?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with what their budget is, but I assume so. I assume that's correct, and I think I can anticipate where your next question is going to go. Where do they get their money? Ticket sales and parents and their own fundraising. And then Black Hill Sports does pay them some of the money we generate for the maintenance that they do. For instance, for the mowing and things like that, and painting and stuff like that.
So in 62 years, you asked city to put the roof damage in under their insurance?
To the best of our knowledge, yes. I mean, that kind of exceeds maybe the institutional memory that we have available, but that's the
And would
last.
it be fair to say that over 62 years, there have been tens of thousands of people come in from maybe 15, 20 states all over the country, bringing in huge amount, millions of dollars into our economy. Would that be a fair statement?
Well, that's not only a fair statement, that's an understatement. Over that period of time, there's been hundreds of thousands of people that have come to our city because of this facility and the program that's here.
And it cost us, or an insurance company, to fix a roof once in
Right.
62 years.
Right.
Well, you've done a remarkable job, so thank you
Thanks.
very much.
And we want to keep doing it. But everything wears out, folks. It just flat wears out. And we've cobbled it together the best we can. And if we want to compete, in the folder that I gave you some examples of other facilities that these teams play at. You know, the AstroTurf, and they're just really, really nice. Well, it's hard for us to bring people from Las Vegas and Omaha to come to our city to play in this facility now because it's just not very nice compared to the ones that are available, and we need to compete. And Rapid City as a city is the winner if we can bring those types of tournaments to this town.
And I think the committee appreciates the AstroTurf aspect. A couple of years ago, we awarded some money to School of Mines for their AstroTurf, and that really is that's a spectacular facility now, in part because of that.
Thank you.
And then my last question is, who are all these people here? Gentlemen, what teams or organizations do you represent? Someone give us an idea? It's kind of late for you to be out, isn't it?
Well, this, Mr. Chairman, are some of the players, some of the coaches, some of the parents, some of the Legion supporters.
How about Post 22 players? Got any of those? Stand
Stand
up,
up.
please.
If you're a Post 22 player, please stand up.
Very good.
Thanks.
Right in front. A little taller than I thought. Okay, thanks, gentlemen. Thank you for coming. And then Legion, did you say?
Well, yes, and I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that we have a couple of alumni from Post 22, but they also went on to play in the major leagues.
Well,
They're
we'd
also-
recognize them if you want to point them out, please.
Okay, well, stand up, folks.
Sam Wolf and Tanner Kleberod.
Legion?
Thank you.
Did you say Legion?
Yes, we have some Legion representatives here. Lyle, stand up with your buddy there.
Represent them. Well, thank you for your service, gentlemen. Any? No parents?
I think there are some parents back here. They're a little shy. Go ahead. Okay, just wave your hand. That'll work. All right.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it. Very well. We will now move on to our final applicant. We invite Expedition League. Sure.
Okay, sounds good.
I mean, they've done a hell of a job, my lord.
Yeah.
Brought in.
Yes.
Are we ready? All right. Great, thank you. My name is Steve Wagner. I'm the president of the Expedition League. This is Kevin Bybee and Heidi Bybee, who own the Spearfish Sasquatch in our league and will own the Expedition League team here in Rapid City when that occurs. So I think the best way for us to start is to just show you a brief video, a couple minutes, and it'll give All right, so that's a little, just a little video montage that we put together this year. Just those are just highlights from our games, you know, within the Expedition League. So we're here to ask and request funding for McKeague Field. McKeague Field is it's a good ballpark. Just needs some improvements for some of the things that we're looking to do. So. There's several teams that play at McKeague. Obviously, the high school teams, 4 high school teams play there. Amateur team plays there as well. We would look to play our schedule at McKeague as well. We play a 64-game season over the course of about 10 and a half weeks from late May through mid-August. And so obviously 32 of those games are home games. And again, we're looking to you know, have those improvements come to McKeague or make those improvements at McKeague Field so that we could do all the things that need to be done as far as accommodation of fans and improving the playing surface and all of those things. So I can get into, again, a little bit about, you know, who we are. Our mission as a league, we're a summer collegiate wood bat baseball league. So these are college baseball players that are playing Division I, Division II, or JUCO, and extremely talented baseball players who are looking to get recognized by professional scouts, looking to make it to professional baseball. And so this is really a stepping stone for that. There are probably 30 or so leagues of summer collegiate baseball across the country. 300 to 400 teams. So it's a pretty popular thing. It's become big. If you've ever heard of the Cape Cod League, they've been around for, I think, 100 years literally. And they're a league that is really, they're an awesome league, but there are a number of other summer collegiate leagues too. And again, what we're looking to do is to provide and emulate that minor league baseball experience for these college kids who come in and then hopefully ultimately can make their way to play professional baseball, many of whom will do that. Our mission is, as a league, is to provide a fun environment for fans, to give these players an opportunity to develop as we emulate the minor league baseball experience, and to really have a positive impact in the community in a lot of different ways. So this is our footprint right now, where we're located, along with some areas and cities that we are looking to expand to. So we founded the league about 5 years ago, and we took 3.5 or so years to build the league and to establish it and get everything set up and go into these communities and negotiate ballpark leases, meet with the community, and assess the viability of these teams in each of these cities. So 2018 was our inaugural season with 8 teams. 2 teams in North Dakota. In Minot were the Souris Valley Saber Dogs. In Dickinson, it's the Badlands Big Sticks. And then 3 teams here in the state of South Dakota, 1 over in Aberdeen, the Hub City Hotshots, the Pier Trappers, and then just up the road here, the Spearfish Sasquatch, and that team again is owned by Kevin and Heidi Bybee. In Wyoming, we're in Casper, the Casper Horseheads, and Gering, Scotts Bluff, about 3 hours south of here, the Western Nebraska Pioneers, and then the Hastings Sodbusters in kind of south central Nebraska. We're expanding by 2 teams in this upcoming season. We're expanding into Brandon, Manitoba. Beautiful, beautiful ballpark. Very similar size community to Rapid City, about 60,000 people, so a bit smaller, but a really, really beautiful place and a great ballpark up there. And then we're expanding to Fremont, Nebraska, about 25 miles northwest of Omaha as well. So you can kind of see where we're going. Our goal is to have anywhere from 24 to 30 teams in this league, and we've done the legwork to do that. It's just a matter of expanding at the right time and growing, strategically. A summary of what we're looking to do, or what needs to be done at McKeag to really renovate that ballpark. Right now, the field is in a little bit of rough shape. Jim Sullivan and his group do a phenomenal job of maintaining it, but they're doing it on a shoestring budget, and they do a very, very nice job. But it needs some work, it needs some help, and really the ballpark, again, beautiful. It's on the sight lines and everything are beautiful, but there's just a number of things that need to be done. So we're looking at 5 action items, which together is about an $885,000 ask. And those 5 items are field turf. It would be infield turf only. And the price on that, the cost on that is $350,000. The lighting needs to be upgraded. It's been a while. And there are certain standards, obviously, where as it relates to safety and things like that, where the lighting would need to be upgraded. So that lighting upgrade is about $175,000. The dugouts are in pretty bad shape. We would look to have those sunk, so they would be in the ground, which would improve sight lines for fans and just make it a better experience. And those dugouts are estimated at $50,000. Backstop netting, right now it's chain link, and netting is better, it's safer, it covers the fans a lot better. And MLB and minor league baseball, they're all going to kind of expanded netting, and to do the netting right, it would be about a $40,000 price tag. And then the seating. So it's kind of weird out there now. If you go to McKeag and you sit in a seat, you kind of look at the second baseman. So I'm not sure why, but for some reason that concrete was poured a little cockeyed. But it's old, and so that the seating would need to be upgraded to provide the number of seats that would be needed to do a lot of different things there. Not only Expedition League baseball, but tournaments and other events that could be held at the ballpark. So that seating, the seating is approximately $220,000. So we've got some pictures about some of the issues that exist at McKeag. The field you know, the playing surface isn't fantastic. You know, it takes time to maintain a field. It's not an easy process, and it takes a lot of man hours to do that. The beauty of turf is that you now automatically you don't have really any maintenance to do with it. It's got a long life. Turf has gotten really good over the years. You know, just as far as playability, it plays like real grass, and of course, you can get a ton of rain and you can play a baseball game 15 minutes later. So it's a great potential solution for you know, for what needs to be done over there, and you can play in all sorts of conditions with turf. And we would just again look to the infield. The outfield grass is really not an issue. And infield is really where that turf would make a tremendous difference. So again, you know, the benefits of the project, safety obviously would be improved with the improved field conditions, with the lighting. I've got a buddy who plays senior for a senior league, and they were here this year, and so I you know, I was watching some games over there, and these old guys probably aren't real coordinated in the first place. I mean, they were good athletes, I guess, at some point, but you know, so it's you know, one of them took one to the chops, and it's just the playing surfaces certainly needs improvement, the lighting, and from a viewing standpoint. So our league is all about fun. You know, one of the great things about the Expedition League is it's great for the entire community. So when we look at the benefits and who it benefits, obviously all the youth baseball that's played there, high school baseball, for these kids to have a facility that they could call their own and be proud of would be fantastic. But our games are attended by kids from 1 year old to, you know, to people that are 80, 90 years old, and they love it. We had so many people this year in the communities that we're in thank us repeatedly for bringing this brand of entertainment to their community. And really, that's what it is. It's entertainment. It happens to be high-level baseball, but it's absolutely fun, entertaining, a time for fans, and the Bibees can attest to it. When you get the ballpark full, it's rocking, and you know, there's some people watching every pitch, and there's some people who barely recognize there's a baseball game going on out there. And that's really the beauty of baseball. It's a grand old game, and it's fun because people can come to the game whether they love baseball or they really don't really care that much about it, but they want to come out and have a good time, have a couple of beers, sit with their friends. We have kids zone areas where kids, you know, it's all in a contained area, and you know, there's oversight, and the kids can have fun, and that. We just really were thrilled with the results this past year. We drew about 160,000 fans across the league. As a league, we averaged about 650 a game. We anticipate that will continue to go up as it did throughout the season. And we'll have places this year where we draw over 1,000 fans a game. And I believe this city, Rapid City, would be a place that could support you know, 1,000 plus fans a game you know, over the course of a 32-game season. And I really think this could really be one of the best places in the entire league, just because of the demographics and the popularity of baseball here and the population itself. And I think it could really be one of those locations that could lead the league in attendance. This past year, the Western Nebraska Pioneers down in Gering, Scottsbluff led the league in attendance at 936 a game. That's a community of about 30,000, and they just went berserk for the Pioneers down there. It was really, really fun. That place was a lot of fun this summer, and the city built that ballpark for us a couple of years ago. So they built about a $2.5 to $3 million facility. Seats about 1,250, a couple of party deck areas, just a really, really beautiful venue, and the fans show up. And again, it's people who are passionate about baseball and love it, and it's people who just really, really enjoy coming out. We do a lot of stuff like this. This is an act called Superstars, and we do all sorts of between-inning activities. It's a riot. I don't know if any of you made it up to a Sasquatch game this last year, but you got to get up there this summer. It is a lot of fun. And again, the talent level is off the charts, but the fun aspect of what we do is really what it's all about. So the benefit, there's a lot of economic benefit. The team's operating budget is in excess of $500,000 that gets spent in the community. people who come into to the games will spend money in town. Some people come from out of town. Visiting players stay in hotels. Visiting players and umpires alone is over 300 hotel nights a year. So there's just from that, there's quite a bit of economic activity that's generated. Our 8 teams last year contributed over $60,000 to local charities. So we get really involved in the community. Our players make appearances in the community. We get them very, very involved, and they're really, really good kids. We had 0 incidents with the kids, the players last year. They were phenomenal, extremely talented, and they stay with host families, so that's a really cool thing. And these kids will get drafted. You know, some kid that comes through Rapid City, these kids will get drafted and they'll play big league baseball at some point. So it's neat that we're catching them on the way up. It's really a thrilling level of baseball. These kids hustle, they're hungry, they're polite, and so it's really a fun experience with that. And I guess the last thing I'll say is what we included in our packet of the application is that we would give back 25 cents of every ticket for the first 3 years that we're in operation. Give that back to the Vision Fund or however it wants to or needs to be used, and that would generate about $30,000 or $40,000, that 25 cents per ticket over the next 3 years. And we do other things in our ballparks too, so it's not just baseball. It's concerts, it's festivals, it's other things that bring people to the community. So it's not just the 32 nights of baseball, it's also a lot of other things that bring people to the community to spend their dollars in the community. So, you have anything to add, Kevin, to that?
No, I just appreciate your guys' time. I know you guys have put a lot of time and effort over the last few days, and I'm sure you're very elated that we are the last ones you have to look at for the next couple of days. So we're happy to take any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the presentation. You guys have put a lot of thought and detail into it. So when I'm looking at your projected financial results, is that based on the additional 663 seats you would be adding if you were funded?
Yes, yes. Currently it holds right around 200. There was a quick shot of that, just some regular bleachers, but the proposed seating additions would be about 881 seats, plus a party deck. So yes, those projections are based off of about 880 to 900 seats.
So what it says in here is adding the 616 seats would be a total number of 1496. Is that?
Sounds about right. Yep.
What? Okay.
Yep.
And so I don't have any figures from previous years. What were your ticket sales in previous years? Because you're projecting 272,000 in projected sales on 616 additional seats.
Yeah, we don't have a team here now, so there's no history. This is all just projected financial results.
Okay.
And a lot of what we base that off of is we tend to use Gehring and Scottsbluff as kind of, they ended up winning the championship, like Steve said, that community just latched on to that team. And that community, Gehring, Scottsbluff, is about 30 to 35,000, as opposed to Rapid City being 75 to 80,000 proper. So that's kind of where we're gauging those numbers.
Sure. And of course, that's a 41% increase in your seating, and your projected revenue is about 44%, so I guess they kind of match. So thank you.
Chair recognizes Heather.
The night wouldn't be complete if I didn't ask something. Thanks for your presentation. I appreciate your time and effort. I'm really curious what happens if you're not funded? What happens?
Well, you know, that it's a big part of what we're looking to do to be able to bring a team here, quite frankly. You know, 885,000 is really the base, kind of bare minimum that is required at McKeag to get it to the point where it'll be great for the fan experience and for playability for the players. So we also have been granted permission by Parks and Rec and the city to go out and find a naming rights partner, which we're working on. So there is some additional funding available. What we'd like to do is about $1.5 million to $2 million of renovation to McKeag. The things that we've identified here are really what we need to make it great for the fans, make it great from playability standpoint. So, you know, a new concessions building out there would be awesome, it would help a lot. What we will do in the interim is some other ways to be able to, you know, have some kiosks for food and beer and that sort of thing. So it's not a showstopper. Bathroom improvements and upgrades would be great. You know, the alternative in the short term are porta potties, which are fine and they work great. We do that in some of our ballparks. And the facade of the building and other things that we also want to do, and we would be looking to do that through, you know, a naming rights partnership with a corporation. So really, this is a pretty key cog in the wheel for McKeag as far as what we're looking to do to be able to bring a team here.
So really what you're saying is this is, while you haven't spelled out phases, this is really kind of what you would consider to be phase one of multiple phases of improvements to McKeag Field.
Absolutely, yes.
And the phases that would come after this would be funded through naming rights and those other types of funding that you would pursue.
Yep, absolutely. And team operations, you know, when these teams are started, there's a certain amount of working capital invested to bring, you know, to start the team and to, you know, to get team operations up and running. So as the team, you know, generates revenue and becomes you know, the operations get started, there's some potential there to do that as well. You know, the startup capital for a team initially is all the things that are needed to bring the team to the community. And really the ballpark improvements would be those avenues that we just mentioned, Heather.
So when I asked Black Hills Sports, who presented right before you, what their contribution would be, if I were to ask that same question of you, your contribution is really the operations of the team.
Yep,
and
that's
then
correct.
any additional improvements beyond this phase.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we would, you know, look to get those funded through several different means. Certainly naming rights is a big deal. To be able to go and have a partner, a corporate partner, to be able to, you know, put their name on that facility is fantastic. We were blessed that the city and Parks and Rec allowed us to do that.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Megan.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks for the presentation. Last night, I believe, Cassie was up at the podium talking about Black Hills Junior League. Are you in conversations with them as well? And
Yes,
how
we've,
do you plan on kind of collaborating with one another in order to really capitalize on what you're both trying to do for the community?
Oh, that's a great question. We actually, when we were looking for places to play in Rapid City, it's very limited as far as how many fields would be adequate for that. McKeag rose to the top, and we wanted to see who's currently at McKeag, and it's Black Hills Junior League, which is 13, 14, 15-year-olds, I believe, and then the amateur team, and then the high school baseball. So it's Stevens Central, Douglas, and St. Thomas More. They all play there, and they all get use out of that field. So we wanted to make sure that we were talking with them, in collaboration with them, seeing if what we're wanting to do is something they would be interested in. Their project, we didn't want to bundle them together. We didn't want to sabotage one another. So we've had meetings with Cassie, 2 or 3 different meetings with her, and they said that their facility that they have proposed would be open to us as well. I mean, we have a good working relationship with her and with Jim Sullivan as well, who is in charge of high school baseball. Excuse me. And so there's been 2 or 3 different meetings. We've all been very receptive to one another's ideas and want to make this thing work. McKeag Field, to the best of our recollection, the investigative part that we've done to find out how many improvements have been done there, we couldn't find anything. And I'm not even sure. I've lived here the majority of my adult life, and I don't know of any renovations that have ever been done to that field. And those couple, 2 or 3 that were at the field the other day, it was covered in some snow, but it's in definite need of repair. And I know you've heard that from a lot of different people around the community as well. But yeah, it's in definite need of some upkeep. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Tim.
A couple questions. What's the cost of your initial phase of the infield turf? Is there any contingency on that? What do you expect its lifetime to be, and what's your replacement plan on it?
Sure. The company that we're working with on that is Mid-America, and the 350 is a solid number. Again, infield only, but that 350,000 doesn't have much in the way of contingency, but they've done a ton of these projects, and so we feel really comfortable with that number. I'm sorry, what was the rest of
What's
your question?
What's your expected lifetime?
Oh,
of the
about
turf?
15 years.
15 years?
Yep.
And what would be your plans on replacement?
You know, I think at that point, I guess we haven't thought maybe through that, but, you know, through team operations and, you know, other avenues, I think, we could handle that, if you will. And that's the beauty of just the infield being turfed. An entire, where we play up in Minot is Corbett Field. They turf the entire ballpark, outfield and infield. It was $1 million, right? So they did that without us asking, which we're very happy about. But so the nice thing about the infield, if it's just infield, that's, you know, outfield grass for us is fine. We have that situation in Dickinson. We have that situation in Hastings, Nebraska. So I'm sure we would be able to handle resurfacing that at the point that that becomes required.
And the nice thing about that down the road, 10, 15 years from now, that turf can be branded with a logo. So if you did have a corporate sponsorship, somebody, you know, some big player, Vast, let's say Vast wanted to sponsor the field, they could put their logo on that turf. So some of the costs could be recouped there.
What are today's approximate cost as replacement then for that?
For infield turf?
Infield, yeah. What would it cost to, you know,
Probably,
in 15 years, obviously it's going to be inflated, but.
The turf part of that is probably about $150,000. The other part is site prep and drainage and all the things that go into it. So that's a great point. Once you have that done, you don't have to redo that, right? The drainage and all the things that go into that are completed, and then it's just actually replacing the turf. And in today's dollars, it's right around $150 for that infield portion that we're talking about.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, Vision Fund 2018, committee members, any more questions? We're done.
You're done.
Thank you.